And welcome back to another episode of JP and the Beanstalk.
Hey!
We're here.
Welcome to 101 Beans.
Yes.
Come on.
We had to take a nice little refresher after episode 100. I think episode 100 just hit us real hard.
Just what a come down, you know?
Yeah.
Just the recovery time was just necessary. That's okay.
Yep, someone didn't know what they were doing.
I don't know if I would call it that. I think it's
Close
just
enough.
it's little spoilers for what's ahead. It's just kind of a reboot, right? You're asking yourself, hey, we've done so much. What can we do next?
Oh,
right?
We're going through a reboot.
Right?
Ooh,
Interesting.
The reboot.
No, it's great to be here. It's good to come in with some fresh energy, fresh ideas, and just fresh appreciation for what we get to do here and talk comics, talk movies. We enjoy the heck out of both of those things.
Yes, we do.
It's a great time. Well, we're excited to have crossed the triple-digit threshold with all y'all. And on today's fine episode, we'll have another fantastic segment of One Thing You'd Change, where we pick a comic character from both the Marvel and DC side and examine, hey, if we could, what would we change about that character? We're going to check in and keep bending, not entirely breaking, okay, but bending the rules on our waiting to recap a show until it's over by the halfway point. We're a little over the halfway point, but let's check in on Daredevil Born Again. How are we feeling? Where do we see it heading? Are we encouraged, discouraged, something in between? You'll find out. We got some casting news. Any of it terribly surprising? Some, maybe, with Avengers Doomsday starting production. We got an official kind of cast roll-out reveal from Marvel. So thank you, Marvel, for dropping that nugget. That was fun. We'll talk through all the names on that list. And then, of course, we are going to get into a kind of a combo platter. So you've heard Beans Beefs, you've heard JP's point of view. We're squishing them together today, folks, and we're going to talk comics and how, listen, comics needs a reboot. And we're here to tell them how to do it. So you're welcome.
It might be less of a talk and more of a yell.
Sometimes that's what's necessary.
The anger is there.
It is. The passion is real. And then, of course, we'll get into another classic, JP and the Beans Top 5, where we reveal our top 5 alternate universe storylines in comics. But before we get to the end, we got to start at the beginning. So let's kick it off with none other than One Thing You'd Change. Today's characters. On the DC side, we've got Red Hood. On the Marvel side, we have Venom. So we got a red theme going. It's kind of nice.
Red theme.
Oh, Red Hood. I'm sorry, you said Venom. I had Carnage in my head. Excuse me. So sorry, Eddie. My bad.
Ugh,
my bad.
That's looking rough for you.
Clearly need to be drinking some coffee late at night. Okay, clearly you need to go first. So take it away with Red Hood.
Oh, we're doing Red Hood first.
Red Hood first.
I talked myself up. So if this bombs, this is on you for setting me up for failure. So
totally worth it.
Red Hood, what would I change? Look, Red Hood needs a nice little change of pace. Mm-hmm. And, I'm so tired of Batman being like, hey, quit killing people. And he's like, well, some people deserve to die. And then he's like, quit doing it, though. And so they have this back and forth. I'm kind of sick of the back and forth.
Sure.
And I don't want to see him not kill people. Mm-hmm. Okay? Because, honestly, the Bat family needs this. Mm-hmm. So my thought process was, why don't we get him out of Gotham for a little while?
Yep.
Let's put him with Constantine. Yes. Okay. Give him some magic bullets, all right? But get him with a guy that he's okay with the killing. Mm-hmm. Obviously, Constantine's out for himself. But,
another good, sturdy anti-hero who's, well, more so than Red Hood, confident in who he is. Right? But comfortable
correct.
With who he is.
Also, somebody that Batman would be like, you know what? This is okay to kill because they're not human.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So the Justice League Dark as a whole, maybe that's a good fit. Maybe he gets some magical guns. All right, I don't know how it all works. Mm-hmm. Maybe that's a nice little
thing in the comics.
So maybe mystical magical bullets that he can shoot. Great, fantastic. I'm not really stuck on that.
Right.
But let him kill things that Batman's okay with killing because it's needed. Mm-hmm. Imagine him just going on a murder spree of vampires. All right, right. he gets the crowbar out, because that, by the way, one of the best touches to give Jason Todd is to rock out with a crowbar for a weapon.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful. That is a full circle moment that they better never take the crowbar away from.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, just imagine him though, with a crowbar, just smashing zombie skulls in.
Right.
I want that magical, mystical vibe.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, we have all the Robins. They all kind of fall into their own similar pathways, right?
Yep.
So to have him in that world, that puts a Batman character in a completely fresh environment that Jason's definitely not used to at this point in time.
Right.
So that is my take. Pair him up with Constantine, because I think those two would be, no pun intended, magical. Okay, those two together, I feel like would be a lot of fun, because I think they would screw each other over consistently. So that's my vote. Put Jason Todd with Constantine, give him some mystical weapons.
That's great. I love that a lot. My thought for Mr. Jason Todd, aka the Red Hood, is not dissimilar to yours as far as, hey, we need some kind of a partnership here. Here's what I envision for our guy, Jason Todd. I would love to see him get reincorporated into the League of Assassins and become the leader of the League of Assassins. I think that his vision currently is just a touch too small, right? It's like, well, I'm just going to take out the ground level baddies. It's like, okay, but if he's really committed, and I think he is, to the eradication of evil through fatal means, I can't think of a better crew for him to be running than the League of Assassins. And how full circle would it be if a former Robin were to become the head of the League of Assassins? Because Talia al Ghul and Ra's al Ghul, or Raish, whatever pronunciation you want to use, their whole long game, their long game was always, hey, Damian Wayne, the son of Talia and Bruce, is to become the head of the League of Assassins. Obviously, it didn't happen. Instead, Damian Robins up with Dad, works out really well. So what a potential psych out that would be if Talia is able to fold Jason Todd back into the League of Assassins mix, put him at the top. I think that would mess with Batman quite a bit from a psychological perspective, that not only has he lost a Robin, but he's lost one of his cherished friends to one of his more complex enemies. And I just think it'd be a great fit for Jason. It's like, hey, man, dream bigger. You got a whole league here to run, to do your bidding. I think that's what it needs to be. Jason Todd, head of the League of Assassins.
Yeah, give him some more ninja wear instead.
He was obviously resuscitated in the Lazarus Pit by Talia and by Ra's al Ghul. He was trained for a time in the League of Assassins. It's actually kind of weird that he was just released into the wild, so to speak. That's usually not the League of Assassins MO. I think part of it was, well, this guy's too crazy.
I think that was a lot of the part of it.
I think his character has grown beyond just the sheer unexpected craziness to more of your just garden variety rage, if you will, that needs to be let out. It's like, that guy's a good fit for a bunch of assassins. Put him in charge of those.
Yeah, and Talia in his year over Bruce I think she could easily get him to crack more than, Bruce being the one to be like, no killing. Because he obviously wants to give in to that murder spree. So, yeah.
Yeah.
No, so that's good.
That's my take. That's good. On Red Hood. Okay.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Very good. Let's get into our guy, Venom. We'll go first here with Venom. Here's what I would like to see with Venom. All right. Powerful dude. Anti-hero, yes. So often conflicted. He has not really been given his fair chance or opportunity at becoming a member of the proper Avengers. Okay. And I would like to see him get folded into the squad. And the rationale, as far as how do you justify bringing this big goon into the group, is, hey, have him as your Hulk deterrent. Okay. So two things happen. Venom gets brought into the group, which is new, fun, and exciting. And Hulk is allowed to just freaking Hulk out. They're not walking on eggshells going, wow, what do we do if Banner loses control again? It's like, you've got Venom right there. He can wrangle the big green guy. He's not as powerful, but he's a lot harder to kill than just about everybody else that would try to stop the Hulk. And Venom has powered up at different times throughout his comic history, so maybe give him a little bit of a boost, a little bit of beefing up, and I think that's how the Avengers could sell it, so to speak, is, hey, this is our kind of our Hulk buffer, so that we can let the Hulk go nuts, and we know that we're not going to regret it because Venom is there to wrangle him back in. But you also get to see Venom genuinely be on the side of the good guys, and I think that just creates a lot of natural conflict for his character because he's not a good guy.
No.
And so you're asking him to be part of the good guys, and so he's going to want to go too far, and then Steve Rogers is going to be like, whoa, scale back a little too far. He's like, come on, just let me do it. It'd be so easy. So that's...
Would you have Eddie Brock?
Eddie's just my Venom.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Eddie's the Venom that I prefer. Flash Thompson's not a bad Venom in his own right, but for me it's Eddie.
I think Eddie brings a more interesting take than Flash, because Flash is going to keep it in line if he's with Captain America.
Yep.
So I would agree Eddie's more of a wild card when it comes to that.
So I think I prefer the Venom.
And also because Eddie's Venom is more bulky like that,
Correct.
Right.
And that's the Venom that I always picture in my mind is the upper body has just become bloated.
Oh no, that is Venom.
What you want.
That's 100% Venom.
Yes, it's like you should be tipping over all the time.
It's so funny because he went from lengthy Spider-Man to jacked Eddie Brock, and he's like, you know what? We're gonna make him even more jacked.
He's the guy that clearly only works on the upper body. Doesn't focus on leg day.
Oh no.
Leg day doesn't know what it
doesn't
is.
need to.
No,
doesn't need to.
No,
not with that
legs,
look.
but a absolute hulked out upper body. So that's my take on Venom.
I like that. I like the idea of the Avengers having two big guys.
Yeah, right?
It's always just one big guy. And you can make the argument
that way.
You could make the argument Thor's a big guy, but not like the Hulk.
Yeah, there's not enough volatility in there with Thor. Like Thor, you know what you're getting. It's vanilla. It's great. It's reliable. Thor. It's steady. Love him. But I think that additional bigness and the volatility brought on by Eddie and Venom's combined personalities, that's too much fun to miss out on. Mistake.
So I was going back and forth with mine because I'm like, well, we could take away the fire weakness, and that's kind of been done. Marvel Spider-Man 2, PS5, they took away the fire and just made it noise. I like that better. Okay, so it's been done.
Yeah.
So I'm going through different hosts.
Okay.
A different new host. Yeah. And the one thing that really stuck out to me is that Venom hasn't really had a host that has been super powerful for super long. Right? You have Eddie Brock, no powers. Flash Thompson, no powers. Spider-Man, yes, he had powers, but if you think about it, it is spider sense.
Right.
It is sticking to walls. It's, it's basic, like, human enhancements rather than, you know what I mean? Because the web shooters, the other cool thing that he has, that's a weapon. Right? So I was trying to, he's never had that big thing. So I wrote down 4 possible.
Oh, I love this.
I'm going to throw this out to you and you can pick which one's your favorite. Okay. I will give you my favorite out of the 4.
Okay.
So first I came to Punisher, which that feels basic. Feels like it feels like he's just a crazier version of Flash Thompson.
Yep.
So I kind of wanted to throw that one out.
Yep. But I get where you're coming from.
My personal pick, Gambit. Somebody with, I like the range ability. Yep. Venom is more of an in-your-face character.
He's a brawler.
I'd like to see what he could do with a bow staff and the ability that Gambit has.
No question.
There was a really cool, I saw this the other day. Apparently there's a storyline where the X-Men team up with Venom. They all get symbiotes, of course, because that's what happens. But like Cyclops could like shoot lasers out of anywhere.
Nice.
Instead of just his eyes. And he could just see like a normal person with the Venom symbiote.
Sure.
So I didn't pick Cyclops for that reason because it's been semi-done.
Right.
But I was like, imagine Gambit with that, right? You got a little bit more range. Imagine him swinging through, touching a wall. It just explodes. And because he can touch it anywhere, essentially. He'd be a sticky grenade.
That'd be pretty
everywhere.
Tough.
It'd be awesome.
Pretty tough.
Right?
Yep.
So I like that. I also have 2 other ones. Cable. And more for the
mental side of it.
Correct. Because I want to see what Venom could do to enhance that.
Yep.
My final one, which I think would be really cool, I have Blade.
Oh gosh, I was just gonna say, please say Blade.
Blade would be
Please
fantastic.
say Blade. Yeah.
So Gambit would be my 1.
Yep.
Blade would be my 2.
Yeah.
As they are, and I would lean more Gambit because again, I want somebody with more superpowers that you could just see get blown up more.
Right.
But my God, Blade would be badass.
If nothing else, for the sake of variety, I'm gonna say Blade is my personal preference. I love the creativity though with the Gambit idea, because to give Venom these ranged attacks is just unfair, because you can reasonably say, hey, if I can just stay away from the guy, I'll be all right. But if all of a sudden that safe distance has just all of a sudden shrunk to almost non-existent, that's a bit of a problem.
Right.
And by a bit, I mean huge freaking problem.
Well, when Norman Osborn got a Carnage symbiote, right? They had the pumpkin bombs that were symbiote enhanced.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Fine. But I just love the idea of just Gambit being able to touch literally anywhere, probably.
He could probably just create his own projectiles.
Correct. He wouldn't need cards anymore.
No.
And Venom would also give him more of creativity, I feel like, because it could be like, oh, yeah, I could do symbiotic cards or whatever, but I could also just, here's a rope.
Yep.
Bang.
Why not?
We talked, again, sticky grenades we already talked about. I love the idea of him just chucking the bow staff like 100 miles per hour at a car and just watching it blow up. But yeah, it gives Gambit the creativity to kind of do even more because of the symbiote. So that's my pick.
That's awesome. I love that. That's so much fun. Yeah, and what's great about comics is that there are a lot of opportunities for characters to go through changes, transformations, a lot of creativity in the comics world. So fun to talk through. What could that look like? Okay, let's dive into the Avengers Doomsday cast reveal. So earlier this week, it was announced that Avengers Doomsday has begun production in and of itself. That's exciting news. For the first time, while rumors have, of course, run completely amok as far as who will be in these 2 Avengers movies being directed by the Russo brothers, this being the first, Avengers Doomsday, followed by Avengers Secret Wars. And are we on a target for 2026 for Doomsday?
I think so.
That's what they've said.
I can't.
Impossible.
I agree. Maybe late 26.
Yep.
It's got to be like around Christmas.
That's what I would think too. Like fall at the earliest. So we'll keep an open mind.
I don't want them to pull that off in a year.
Correct. We're not angling for haste here. We're angling for quality.
I can't even believe we're here. Does it not feel almost too soon or too late? It just feels like a weird time to get Avengers.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it is. Let's circle back to that after we run through the cast list, because that'll help flesh out some context. But that's an important question to ask, and I think answer. And regardless, of course, what our answer is, we're getting it. So buckle up one way or the other. Whether or not it's the best path forward, still to be determined. But without further ado, we'll read through the cast list names, and I'll pause on a handful that we may need some refreshers as to, I'm sorry, who is that again? So Chris Hemsworth,
Thor,
Robert Downey Jr.,
Iron Man,
Tom Hiddleston,
Loki,
Anthony Mackie,
Captain America,
Paul Rudd,
Ant-Man,
Danny Ramirez,
Falcon,
Letitia Wright,
Black Panther.
Yeah. Right. It's like, sure. And also currently Black Panther, Tinoch Huerta,
Namor.
All about that. That's pretty fun. We'll come back to that. But that's pretty fun. Winston Duke,
M'Baku. I was like, the white gorilla? Is that what it is?
Right.
The white gorilla?
Yep. Both are correct. Sebastian Stan,
Winter Soldier,
Wyatt Russell,
U.S. Agent.
There he is. Florence Pugh.
My Black Widow.
Let's see what you did there. Lewis Pullman, Bob,
Oh, Sentry.
Look
Look at that.
Freaking Bob. David Harbour.
The Red
You
Guardian.
got it. Hannah John Kamen.
Ghost. And I found that out before we potted.
Attaboy. Vanessa Kirby.
Invisible Woman.
There she is. Ebon Moss-Bachrach.
Thing.
You bet. Joseph Quinn.
Oh, Human Torches did get confirmed. Wait. Okay, go ahead. Continue.
Yeah.
No, you're right.
Yeah.
I'm trusting you.
Pedro Pascal.
Because that's the one that I didn't remember seeing the chair for was Pedro.
Yep.
But he is confirmed?
They did a strange... So I have organized our list by essentially groupings of characters. When they rolled out the video, it was a blend and then a grouping and then it was very...
it's super
sporadically done. It wasn't even like alphabetized where you're going, oh, sure. So...
Well... I only say that because I didn't remember Pedro being in there.
Yep.
Okay, good.
Yeah, the
good.
Fantastic Four were, for the most part, pretty split up from each other during that casting announcement. Simu Liu.
Oh, that's Shang-Chi.
Hong-Chi. Patrick Stewart.
Charles Xavier.
Ian McKellen.
Magneto. Thank God.
How about that? Alan Cumming.
That is Nightcrawler. Didn't know who that was until before the pod.
Absolutely. Rebecca Ramjan.
Oh, Mystique. I guessed and got that one right.
Right.
Oh, my God.
James Marsden.
Cyclops.
Kelsey Grammer.
That's Beast.
And how about coming in at the 11th hour, like we all expected, Channing Tatum.
Gambit, baby.
What?
How funny would it be if he wasn't Gambit?
Just a nuke. He's Molecule Man.
Something like that.
Oh, my gosh.
Just something like out of left field.
Gosh. So, a ton of names on that list. Whole blend of characters. Some of the original Avengers with obviously Loki tossed in there. Some of the newer crew like a Danny Ramirez as Falcon. A good core of the Black Panthers world. That crew. So for example, an Huerta as Namor or Namor, however we're supposed to pronounce him in this version of the Marvel Universe. I was excited to see that he's going to be included.
That's going to be cool.
That certainly stuck out to me. Obviously, the entire Thunderbolts crew, with one wonderful exception. R.I.P. Taskmaster.
Yes!
I'm dying so fast.
I swear to God, if she survives this movie, I'm going to quit.
I don't think it's possible. I just don't think it's possible. Like, none of the marketing, and now this says Taskmaster is alive
immediately
at any point.
Ripped in half.
So goodbye. Killed by Bob in all likelihood. But great to see that we're having carryover with that group. Obviously, the Fantastic Four is incorporated here. And then really digging in the way back, the X-Men from the OG movies. I mean, to me, that's quite the pull. I would have been, if you had asked me to guess, I would have guessed that you would have had James McAvoy, that you would have had
still possible.
Yeah, still possible. The door's not closed by any stretch of the imagination. Like Nicholas Holt's version of Beast. There's just that group of characters or actors and actresses. I mean, we've talked about Fassbender so many times on previous episodes. So don't hear me say I'm disappointed in this. I'm not. I'm just
Halle Berry.
Surprised. Sure.
That's a surprise.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously Hugh Jackman and Ryan Reynolds being not on this list.
Right.
You know what I am actually surprised about? Because they threw Channing Tatum in there. I'm surprised they didn't throw in like Wesley Snipes.
Sure.
Or like
Jennifer
Jennifer Gardner.
Right. Yeah, it's okay. Should we be getting this movie right now?
No, we shouldn't be. Look, this movie, based off of that poll, that they're riding hard off nostalgia. That's what that feels like. To announce a good portion of that cast, I would say a third of the cast that was announced as X-Men.
Yeah.
So you pulled from X-Men, Thunderbolts, Black Panther. Like, that's your three, and the Fantastic Four. So 2 of those are very recent movies that you're playing off of recent memory for.
Yeah.
And then, you got your your Avengers characters that have been in Avengers movies since the dawn of time.
Mhm.
Was Tom Holland confirmed for that as well? I thought he was confirmed. Is he not?
He was not part of this
See,
particular announcement.
and maybe I got him and Hiddleston mixed up.
Maybe. Listen, it's also entirely possible, if not likely, given how clever, let's say, the Russos have been in the past with their marketing, okay? With Marvel movies in particular, that what we just were shown is a part. It's not the whole. It's a good chunk of it. It's the majority, but none of us are going to be surprised if and when Tom Holland were to show up, as an example.
Yeah, I think they are. I think for sure they're saving their crazy pulls.
Yep.
I would not. To me, Tobey Maguire's going to be in here.
Mm-hmm.
Hugh Jackman and Ryan will both be in here for sure.
Yeah.
I think Channing Tatum being in the cast release announcement is what confirmed those guys.
Yeah.
And I hope those two, and I hope Laura Kinney is also involved.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. I think it does open the door to Wesley,
Mm-hmm.
to be honest with you.
No question.
And I think he should be. I think he earned that. So I'm pumped. I'm nervous all at the same time.
Yeah.
Like, it's going to be cool to see all these guys back on screen.
No doubt.
But I'm worried what they're going to do with them. Because it does. It feels very nostalgia pop. Like, obviously, we wanted Toby and Andrew to be together in the No Way Home movie.
Yep.
But at the same time, like...
There was a good, worthwhile story to tell there.
Right.
To bring Toby and Andrew back into the fold for. It wasn't a... It served the story well. It served the development of Tom Holland's Spider-Man well. It was not a forced, hey, we're doing this to get attention or to hit that nostalgia button.
Although
like some kind of a fog machine. It
happened.
It did. But think of how underwhelming that could have been had those characters been reintroduced in a poor story or a weakly made movie. That was a strong movie. It was a strong story. And I think that is when the emotion hits the hardest, when you've got a strong structure around it. I'm right on board with you. We're entirely aligned together here. I'm excited, and just as excited, I am equally nervous. The thing that tilts the needle into negative town for me ever so slightly is I still don't feel great at all. It's another way of saying I feel real ominous about Robert Downey Jr. as Dr. Doom.
It's not a good fit.
It's not. And like you and I have talked off camera, off pod about how it's got to be a variant of Iron Man.
It has to be.
It just has to be. Like, you cannot present Robert Downey Jr., the face of Iron Man, the face of the MCU during its prime decade. You cannot legitimately turn around and just recast him as an entirely new character that has any kind of longevity. I think you get one movie, like you get one shot at this. This just feels wrong to me. And that to me is going to be exceptionally difficult to overcome. And I don't see any worthwhile reward at the end of that path if they're saying, as the screenwriters and as the movie producers, we're just going to lean into this as Robert Downey Jr. as Dr. Doom. It's like you get one movie messing around like that, but you've got to tie that off and throw it out and have a different Victor Von Doom. And if you're going to keep Robert Downey Jr. around as a Iron Man variant, that's a legit Iron Man and not an Iron Man variant that's dressed in green and calling himself Doom, I'm super nervous about that element of this movie. And I will be until we see something. Frankly, it's probably going to be until we see the movie, because I can't imagine from a marketing perspective they're going to reveal anything that's going to make me feel differently or better.
Nor should they.
Yeah, correct. They absolutely should not.
It can't be Victor Von Doom.
No.
For the love of God, you know how many bad Dooms we've gotten? 2. That's too many. All right. This
2 for 2.
2 for 2
less.
on bad Dooms.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
I didn't even see the second one. Don't need to.
Mm-mm.
Okay. I saw the look for it. It's terrible.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, no. It needs to be an Iron Man alternate. I think you can make it work. I like the idea of it being an alternate universe where Thanos does win. They try to come back. Guess what? He kills almost everyone. So then, Tony goes off the deep end, turns into Doctor Doom himself to kill Thanos, does it, and then just does everything he can to protect the Earth. That's the only route I can see being successful, and he becomes that world's Doom.
Yeah.
So I hope and I could see it being like a Darth Vader-esque thing where he lost his world to Spider-Man. Yeah. Spider-Man's the one to save him, bring him back to the light, makes a sacrifice play, goes the full Darth Vader route. I don't know. Again, maybe that's not what happens. I hope not, because that's pretty easy lowball. But I don't know. It needs to stay Tony.
Yeah.
If you make him tragic, great, fine, whatever. I kind of just want pure evil, to be honest with you. I'm tired of the whole redemption route, I think. Especially if this isn't like our Iron Man, which it's not.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. They're playing a really precarious game here. And what's disappointing about that is I don't think it's necessary.
No, it wasn't.
It's completely not necessary.
Legitimately, imagine Cillian Murphy, Doctor Doom, the first time we ever get Doom, bang. Fired. Yeah. That's all. You just need one good casting choice.
Yep.
And you can justify Doom now coming.
Yeah.
Right? I wish Doom had been hinted at this entire time.
Sure.
Because I cannot stress this enough. Doom is easily and arguably the best Marvel villain all time, and it's not close. Okay? It's not. Yeah. The best pure villain across the board in Marvel is Doctor Doom. I stand my ground on that.
Yeah.
And the fact that man has not gotten the justice he so rightfully deserves is absolutely insane to me.
Yep. Okay. Pivoting away from that, on this list excited you the most to see? Who stood out? And more than one entry is certainly welcome. I'm excited for Simu Liu. I mean, I don't think that's a surprise to see him. That's not what I'm saying, but I enjoyed so much Shang-Chi and the Ten Rings. That was a solid movie. He did an outstanding job with that character. The fact that he's had to wait this long to get incorporated in another Marvel movie is a real bummer. So I'm pretty excited to have him back in some capacity.
Well, he is an odd fit on paper with the grouping.
Yep.
He sticks out for sure. If you think about it, him and...
He doesn't have a team. It's just him.
But everybody else is from recent stuff.
Yep.
And his stuff, and obviously Chris Hemsworth is not recent. Him and Shang-Chi are more closely together, I think, than farther apart.
Sure.
But you're not surprised by Chris Hemsworth at all. You're like, oh, it's Chris Hemsworth, sweet. Right. There's not anybody that's like, oh my God, they're in this movie. For me, I would say maybe the one that I'm most excited for. We've done a lot of Patrick Stewart. So I'm not going to say Patrick Stewart. I will say Ian McKellen. That's one last run as Magneto.
That's pretty fun.
Give that to me. All right. I'll take that because he's fantastic. Yeah. So out of all of the X-Men characters, and we haven't had Thunderbolts, we haven't had Fantastic Four, so there's nobody I'm chomping at the bit to be more. I think it's just Ian McKellen, and I am going through the Rolodex of possibilities of other people that we could get. That's literally where I'm at. There's nothing on this list.
Tanaka Kurita was another exciting one for me because
and cool.
So similar to Simu Liu, it's the characters of Namor and Shang-Chi. It's those are highlights for me from the last several years of Marvel movies of characters that I'd love to see more of. So let's get more of those dudes, not less.
But there are some surprising characters that are missing here, right? You think they would have added a Captain Marvel or a...
Sure.
Oh, man. I feel like I should have had more character options there. Miss Marvel. There's nobody from the Marvels in this movie, which, again, don't hear me championing that. Hawkeye's missing. Hulk is missing. She-Hulk is missing. Ugh, great.
Daredevil's missing.
Daredevil, Punisher. We got a lot of recent projects that aren't here. So it's very clear, like, what movies they're pulling from here.
Yeah.
And they played it safe.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you're like, I don't feel like the ones that I really want. I want Daredevil so bad in this movie.
Yeah. The tough thing here is just from a wider lens perspective. This is a endgame size cast without the buildup to the story.
And I will say this:
those kind of productions usually don't end very satisfyingly.
I will even say this on top of that, though. They played it very safe with this cast release.
Okay.
They did not give you a big pop.
Mm-hmm.
There's just not a big pop. They're like, hey, you know all the movies that we released? You're going to see characters from these movies.
Yep.
That's essentially what it was. And then they're like, you know what else? Because it's Secret Wars and it's alternate universe, obviously we're going to give you the Fox X-Men.
Right.
There's no, like, crazy pulls outside of Channing Tatum. Channing Tatum's the weirdest pull to include here.
Yeah. Well, and if we truly do get... If Channing Tatum is an indicator of, oh, by the way, Ryan Reynolds and
for
Hugh
sure.
Jackman are going to be in the movie. Think of how tricky that gets, though, if we're going to do that with Channing Tatum, what if we start doing it with other characters where we say, hey, this person that we know has been cast in the movie, that actually turns into another 2 or 3 cast members. This is already a huge list.
Oh, it's insane.
It's already enormous. And so the sheer volume of characters that are getting incorporated here is truly well beyond what we saw with any of the previous Avengers movies. So much of this, I want to feel hopeful, but so many of these indicators do not breed optimism.
No, it's
in my movie-loving soul.
It just smells of Reboot. You know what I mean?
100%.
I smell the Reboot.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's going to be tough.
Yeah. And I think that is, for better or for worse, that's part of Feige's MO. He has a hard time leaving something just untouched in the past. If it wasn't great before, he has a hard time not bringing it into the present and going, hey, we have to approach this and resolve this in some way. Instead of just letting something be and just live as, yeah, okay, that didn't work. Like the Mandarin, okay, from Iron Man 3. Why on earth is Ben Kingsley in Shang-Chi? It's like, just leave it back there. We don't need to be reminded of what it was. And you didn't actually bring it into the present and make it better. You included it, but it didn't make better. It's kind of like someone who won't stop apologizing, right? And you're like, it's okay. Let's move on. No, you don't understand. I'm so sorry.
Just take the L.
It's like,
take the L.
All right, yeah, it happened, but let's move on. We're okay. Yeah, but man, I'm so okay. Now I'm pissed again.
No, pretty much.
So it feels too much like that to me. But let's move on. Let's try and be hopeful in spite of all the feelings. Let's get into that nice combination of JP's point of view and Bean's beef. Today, we're going to talk about why we believe that it is time for comics to take a hard pivot and reboot, and what that reboot would look like. So, Beans, why don't you set some context for us here?
Well, we have talked about this a little bit in the past. So we've talked about this a little bit on the podcast, but recently this comes out again because if you go look at the February bestsellers, 7 of the top 10 are alternate universe. Okay. Absolute DC is kicking ass right now. Okay. Absolute Batman issue 1 has sold out at least 4 times, at least 3 to 4 times.
Right.
Crazy. Okay. That doesn't happen a lot with comic books. It just doesn't. So you have Absolute Comics there, or Absolute Batman, Absolute Wonder Woman, Absolute Superman. They're doing great. Then, on the Marvel side, you have the new Ultimate Universe, thanks to Hickman, kind of heading that up.
Right.
So we now have an Ultimate Universe, which, by the way, read the first volume of Spider-Man. Fantastic. Thank you. What a refreshing take on Spider-Man that was.
Yep.
And so it begs the question, like, if all of these alternate universe, all these alternate takes on characters that we already know and already love are doing so well, why on God's green earth are we trying to keep the stuff from 1960 canon in current day comics?
Yeah, it just gets cumbersome. We're just coming off of discussing how, oh my gosh, there's like 28-ish names on this cast list for this movie. That doesn't seem tenable, right? Well, when you don't ever conclude a story for a world, or in particular for characters, because characters are really what we care about and what we follow. When you don't give a character an end point, you don't allow them to develop either. Like, you're keeping them in this place of stasis where it's like, hey, you can't change too much. We got to keep calling back to the past because isn't the past super neat? And it's just a missed opportunity to instead recognize that I don't think that the creators of these characters or even these comics foresaw, hey, let's tell essentially the same story for decades on end. I don't think it was ever intended to be that way. Instead, I think there's a lot of opportunity to revisit the comic model and go, also just from a business point of view, and ask, how can we get more eyes, more engagement with our material? It's like, you got to make it more accessible. It's one of the most basic things that a business can do, is make it easy for someone to find your product and acquire your product. Like, it's great that you have a good product. And I think in a lot of ways, comics publishers like DC in particular puts out some outstanding stuff recently, but don't make it so hard for people to find it, acquire it, and be able to enjoy it. And in particular, when it comes to the storytelling portion, when you insist on decades worth of history being incorporated into every present day story, that makes it so difficult.
There's a hard cap on what you can do.
Yeah, the hard cap on what a writer can do. It makes it so difficult, though, for a reader to come in and not automatically feel lost. Like, well, I haven't read what came 10 years before. And that's a short window. How about 20 years ago? It just gets further and further back. The catalog of, well, you must have read this, only grows. And listen, when a story in the present is only telling you about how great the past was, like, wasn't that neat? Wasn't that cool? It means you don't actually have a story to tell in the present. So what comics very simply needs to do is revisit their model and say, you know what? We're going to emphasize the quote unquote alternate storylines as our primary focus. And here's the thing. You can have your cake and eat it too. You can keep the existing story going on, like as a legacy outfit. That no longer gets your primary push and attention. You can keep nursing it along, fine. But your best writers and your best artists need to be focused on telling their own stories with these characters. They can absolutely use the characters, but then you got to say you've got, let's say, 5 years max to tell a story. If it takes you less, because that's the amount of story you have in you, is 3 years worth, terrific. If it takes all the way to 5, also great. But that's your window. That's your absolute max. And whenever you're done telling that story, you've reached the natural organic outcome. It's time to be done. Tie it off. Goodbye. And let's start all over again. That's what I think, because I think there's more of an appetite, gives you a chance to create more new characters as well, which is necessary instead of just continuing to recycle. Listen, I love Batman. He's terrific. But he's always made better when the characters around him are able to bring in fresh perspectives and conflicts, as opposed to, look at that, it's the Batman battling Joker again. Never saw that coming. It's like, you got to give yourself permission to do something different, to be creative, because this is supposed to be a creative enterprise. One of the examples that just stands out for me so much is, Breaking Bad. I've said before, it's my favorite TV show of all time. That show never allowed itself to stray into we've been around for too long. It had its story, it told its story, and it concluded in essentially 6 seasons. That's a pretty short run. And these are, seasons that are somewhere between 10 and 12. The total number escapes me, but 10 and 12 episodes long piece. That is not, compared to so many other shows and now movie empires, that's not a long period of time, but it was the right period of time for that story. Comics needs to approach in a similar way of, what time does it take to tell your story? Tell it, and then give yourself permission to start over and move on. Because here's the deal, that past story will always live there. It's always accessible. Someone can go and find it if you're hearing word of mouth. Hey, that was kick-ass. You should read that. That was tremendous. That was quite the take. And then you give someone the opportunity to come on in and tell a fresh tale. I just think that's the direction it's got to go.
Well, it's very interesting in the sense when it comes to legacy characters and keeping the legacy world around, because obviously we need that present in some way, shape, or form, because there needs to be a default Spider-Man, because that's what makes all the other alternate takes work.
Yep.
I like the reboot idea entirely.
Yeah.
I think the main problem, with legacy that you hit really well is the sense that you're so locked in to what you can and can't do. Mm-hmm. How many times have we heard of Gwen Stacy dying?
Oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh, yes. And then one of the key points is her coming back to life, blah, 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 blah. We could go on and on about Gwen and the argument that Peter was supposed to end up with her, not MJ, blah, 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 blah.
Can we pause there for a minute? That's comics doing what we're saying they should do without just fully committing to it. Like, they're rebooting without rebooting. They call it retcon. It's actually BS. Like, it's not a good storytelling device. You just need to start over. And it's okay, but stop doing this retcon crap.
Well, and here's the deal too. Legacy has messed up enough.
Yes.
But there are, we could talk about the Norman Osborn, Gwen Stacy feel that happened. That was weird. That did end up getting retconned, but then also didn't get retconned, but then also got retconned again.
Yep.
That's a whole thing. We could have just not had that.
Yep.
And that's one of those things that it's like, let's just ignore it and move on. Like, when Rhino comes in, I just want Rhino. I don't care about what happened to Rhino 10, 15 years ago. Let's just go fresh take.
Yep.
I think what Batman, Superman, World's Finest does really well, it is your legacy characters. Mm-hmm. That book does not feel super tied to the mainstream DC comics. Now, are there things that are attached to it a little bit? Yes, here and there. I know the first volume touches into Lazarus Planet or whatever.
Yep.
So there are nice little nods and touches.
Right.
But at the same time, they're not tied to what's come before. Mm-hmm. I think, look at Jason Todd dying. That got retconned a couple of times, right? The Batman always feels like he regresses in some way, shape, or form. They never let Batman be a family man.
Yeah.
They never do.
Yeah.
They're finally getting there. Spider-Man, they don't let be a family man.
Yeah.
It's his time. All right. Let Miles be the one that's going through the growing up. Peter's grown at this point. There's so many different things that get rehashed. And to your point with retconning, we've gotten to the point now where instead of reboots, it's runs, and you're finding that writer who covered that comic book or who covered that character in the comic book,
right.
And you're like, that's the best version of Spider-Man right there.
Yeah.
Do you know how confusing that is? How overwhelming that is? To be like, oh yeah, I love Spider-Man, and then somebody pick up a different writer's version of Spider-Man that is current continuity, current legacy, and you're like, what just happened?
Yeah.
Because guess what? That happened with, I believe, was it Zdarsky to Zeb Wells? Whoever was before Zeb Wells. It might not have been Zdarsky. I want to say it was. Whoever ooped it to or Wells was like, nah. He didn't use it anyways.
I'll pass.
So what's the point of all that work that they just put into it when it doesn't matter?
Yeah.
So you just might as well reboot.
Yeah. Another pop culture snapshot is the most recent Star Wars trilogy, where you had J.J. Abrams kick off a new trilogy, and then Rian Johnson comes in and clearly wasn't aligned with J.J. Abrams. It's like, I see it differently. Here's the direction we're going to go. And listen, two really good directors, two like worthwhile stories to tell. Like if you, in this sense, if you're going to present The Last Jedi, okay, as an alternate Star Wars take, that's a totally different reception experience to that movie. But when you're presenting that take, because it's an alternate take, but you're saying, no, this is canon. But no, it's not. That's not Luke Skywalker. That's not right. But if you were to make that movie tell that same story as an alternate take on, hey, here's what happened to Jeepers Kittens, Ben Solo. Yep, sorry. I was trying not to say Ben Kenobi. Like, that's not right. Okay, then that's a Star Wars movie that a person could watch and go, interesting. I'm glad that's not canon. That's my point. But then you get to the third movie, and now it's J.J. Abrams again. He's going, man, I didn't really like any of what happened in movie number 2. Can we go back to the movie number 1 ideas again? All right, here we go. And it's just this big effing mess.
And it still didn't even work then either, because it feels like there was different stuff there.
Exactly. That is what comics does to itself on purpose over and over and over again. What if you just bailed on this way of normal, which is messed up, not a very healthy way to tell a story, and recognize that, you can tell stories with characters without it being the same characters stuck in the same 5-ish year block of their lives all the time. They can keep growing older and age out of their superhero-ness, and you can bring new characters in and create new.
See, and that's another way to do it. Is just turn them into legitimate legacies,
right,
where you watch them grow up and you either kill them off and the next person takes up the mantle, or they pass it down to somebody different.
Yeah.
How interesting would it have been to watch Batman go from young billionaire Bruce Wayne to now Terry McGinnis is your Batman? But like, that's legitimate. Now we are in the present timeline. Terry McGinnis is our Batman.
Yeah.
That's the one thing DC does.
Yeah.
They've introduced other people to pick up the mantle. Right. And guess what? Most of the time, people like it.
Yeah.
Dick Grayson as Batman.
Right.
People enjoyed that. It's very few times where somebody's like, oh, I do not like them as this character.
Correct.
It doesn't work.
Yeah.
It does.
Yeah.
And that's something that Marvel doesn't have.
Sure.
Marvel does not have they've tried. They tried it all at once, which was stupid. That's where they messed up, is they tried to do it all at once, where we had a different Hulk, we had a different Captain America, we had a different Captain Marvel, Miss Marvel, something like that. Which so many people that were different.
To circle back to your original premise, there is a reason that the Ultimate Comics were so well received and so engaging, because it was a fresh starting point for so many fans to go, I can access these characters. And it was it was never presented as this is the canon, like this is the definitive take on these characters, but it was extraordinarily worthwhile because you had new takes and new stories to tell.
You can kind of kill off who you want to kill off.
That's the other thing. Comics never allows a death to actually matter, because as soon as they want that character back, they're going to find a way to retcon that mother trucker. It just totally neuters any and all deaths in comics, and you're just not allowing your characters to grow. It's wild. It's a wild model. Like, who would consciously agree that, no, this is a good way to tell a story? It's not. So stop doing it just because it's the normal, and let's get to a place where the characters can actually grow and develop, where a fan can actually access a story and not be lost. I just think there's so much growth potential with these characters, with these stories. Comics just has to get out of its own way.
And I think also they do a great job of taking those already established characters, and the changes that they make are not so drastic where they're no longer that character, but they make sense within the world that they're in. Like Injustice Superman. Okay. That is a complete 180 of who Superman is.
Yep.
All right. Hands down.
Yep.
No one's going to argue that.
Right.
But watching what happened to Superman, watching the slow turn until it just goes into full dictator, it makes sense.
Yes.
He just lost. He is responsible for killing his wife and baby.
Yep. That'll mess a person up.
Yeah. No, you don't come out of that the same. No, you don't.
No.
So, okay, I can understand why you'd kill the Joker.
Yep.
I can also understand, oh, well, why don't we just be done with war? I get it. And some people at first are going to be like, yeah, let's get on board with that.
Yep.
Superman, that's smart.
Yep.
No more fighting. You can do that. You're Superman. You can do whatever you want. And then it turns into a little bit crazier and crazier. So, but that works because essentially it's still Superman, but something terribly, horribly batshit crazy happened to him to the point where it broke him.
Yeah.
And most people that would they would follow a similar path, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So, but that's why it works, and I love that.
Yeah.
So it makes me want to go read more of the Ultimate Universe.
Correct.
I want to see what's going on with Absolute Batman. How the hell has that sold out 4 times?
It's just, again, it's the proof of concept. It's you can take a character that has had his story told and retold and reshaped in so many different ways.
Right.
And if you have a fresh story to tell with that familiar character, people will come. It's enjoyable. It's engaging. And it's so why aren't we leaning into that more? It's a mystery.
It's
Mystery to me.
It's annoying.
Yep.
And hopefully, I mean, we can even talk about other mediums too, like the movies and stuff doing their own different takes. Yes, it's still that character at the core, but it's worked. The Dark Knight, Spider-Man. I'll bring up Spider-Man PS5 as well.
Yep.
That's an alternate take, but it works so well because guess what? At the end of the day, that's still Peter Parker, baby. And they let him grow up. They let him be in a mentorship spot.
You can keep the core elements of the character intact and explore a different time in that character's timeline. Teenager, 20-something-year-old, 30-something-year-old, 60-something-year-old. Like, you don't have to stay locked into the, okay, let's see, probably about 28. Oh, maybe it's 33. Who knows? You can get out of that egg so easily. Just break out of that shell.
And they don't have to be that character all the time.
No, not even close.
Batman does not have to be Bruce Wayne all the time.
No.
Sometimes it's nice to get somebody else as Batman to see what they would do with the mantle. I would love 100%. A full mini-series with grown-up Damian Wayne taking over the Batman mantle. The fact that hasn't been done, it's been like hinted at and shown in like little tidbits, but it's never been done. That's insane to me. 100% insane. There you go.
Yeah, no question. All right. Great things, good things. Real quick, before we get into the top 5, it's been a little while since we've done a comic recommendations of the pod. Might I say, for those of you looking to get into comics or looking for something fresh, seek out for yourself a what I'm going to call a good coffee table read. So I've highlighted these books that have been made by Marvel and DC in the not too distant past. Marvel has their what they call Anatomy book. DC put out the Anatomy of a Metahuman. Similar vein where they're exploring the physiologies of numerous different characters within their respective universes. It's just both are beautiful, beautiful books, different illustrators, but really cool concepts. The DC concept is, hey, Batman has compiled a dossier of the strengths and weaknesses of different characters in his world that he may have to at some point take down. So some are friends, some are foes. He's just trying to be prepared. The Marvel book is coming from the perspective of Black Panther. Again, doing the same thing, compiling a dossier of friends, foes, strengths, weaknesses, etc. In the case of the Marvel universe, the Skrulls were to come in and try and take over and impersonate these different characters, how to recognize friend from foe. These are just great books to sit with, page through a few pages at a time, sit back down, go do your other things, come back to it. But you can appreciate the thoughtfulness behind the text as well as the attention to detail in the art as well. So there's a lot of really neat books that are this style of more casual coffee table type pick up, put down at any time that I think make comics a whole lot of fun to get into.
Yeah.
So,
and I have Armor and Weapons from Marvel Universe,
right.
and I've read a couple of pages of that, and it's pretty cool.
It's such an easy style book to come back to.
Oh, yeah.
Like you don't have to bust through the whole thing, take little bits at a time. And
it looks sick.
Yeah, it's really, really freaking cool. All right, Beans. It's time for another classic. JP and the Beans top 5.
We're not doing our Daredevil check-in.
Oh my gosh, you're right. I believe it's right by Daredevil. You know what? Let's pivot back to Daredevil real quick.
We'll make it quick.
Let's make it quick.
It doesn't need to be intense.
Nope, not super intense. Thank you for the reminder. Okay, I think I feel optimistic. I need to see more Daredevil.
I'm pumped. I agree.
Yep.
We did not get enough of Daredevil in the Daredevil costume.
Yep. Time to get more
guess
Daredevil.
What?
I think we're going to get him.
Oh, we're back, baby. My dad called me today. He's like, oh, when's the next episode of Daredevil come on? I'm like, tomorrow, Dad. I was like, are you already caught up? He's like, yeah. He's like, I think it might be better than the original. I'm like, I don't know about that. I can't agree with you there. I got to see how the rest of this plays out. But if you think about it, technically it's the same thing anyways. It's just a continuation of the old one. Mm-hmm. Muse is terrifying.
Oh, boy.
That dude is terrifying.
Boy.
So... yeah, give me more Daredevil.
Yeah.
Nothing is funnier than towards like the last 10 minutes of episode 6. And he's like going back and forth on whether he wants to go back out. And he's like, fuck it. And he just goes. That was so funny. I'm like, you know what? The amount of times I've had the same thought process, I'm like, I respect it.
Yeah. Just gotta go.
Okay.
Yeah. The show will hopefully here in these next 3 episodes of this season really lean into both Daredevil and Kingpin as being who they are. Because here's the deal. These shows, we're watching them, we're engaging with them. Partially, we like Matt Murdock. That's great. But we want Matt Murdock as Daredevil.
Mm-hmm.
You gotta give us Daredevil. Winston Fisk, Mayor Fisk, okay, it's cute. He needs to be Kingpin.
Yep.
It's fine if he's the mayor at the same time, but he needs to be freaking Kingpin. That's why these characters are engaging. So I'm optimistic that they've done their setup, and now it's time to deliver.
God, I hope he stays mayor too. I want Spider-Man versus Wilson Fisk so bad.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know how amazing that would be? Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, go ahead. Well, I'm ready for top 5.
Great.
I want to talk about it a little bit.
No, good call. All right. Again, classic JP and the Beans top 5. Top 5 alternate universe storylines in comics. I'm going to keep my list limited to what I've read.
Same.
There's a ton, okay, that we haven't read. So
that deserve to be on the list.
So again, this isn't the top 5 what everybody should read. This is the top 5 alternate universe storylines that we've read and that we've enjoyed. So without further ado, Beans,
I get to
first. You do kick us off.
I get to go first. At number 5, I have Deadpool kills the Marvel Universe because that is a sadistic version of Deadpool, which is not my Deadpool by any means. But to watch, it's so funny because this villain essentially tries to persuade Wade Wilson to do his bidding, and instead he just introduced another voice into Wade's head that's like, just kill everything. And he does. And he blows some people up. He cuts some people off. What he does to Wolverine and X-23 is brutal. It is absolutely brutal. So it is, oh my, the X-Men as a whole, the way he kills them, puts most of them in a death maze, and then watches Charles Xavier, makes him watch, and then, because the X-Men are the reason he was sent to the mental hospital where his mind got messed with. Yeah, it's not good. Okay, it's dark, but why I picked this is because it leads into Deadpool versus Deadpool, which is just a magical read.
Right.
Actually, Deadpool Illustrated as well is in the middle of that, because that's the same Deadpool because he realizes, oh, to kill everything and everyone, I have to kill the origin of that. So that whole run, I've talked about it before on here. That right there, Deadpool kills the Marvel Universe. That version of Wade Wilson is my number 5.
Super fun. Love it. My number 5, a little Frank Miller pull here. So Batman: The Dark Knight Returns, but it also, Mr. Miller turns the story into a trilogy. So it's Batman: The Dark Knight Returns, The Dark Knight Strikes Again, and then finally The Dark Knight: The Master Race. So The Dark Knight Returns is easily the most well-known and well-regarded out of the entire trilogy. And it came out late 80s, and it's portraying Batman essentially in his 60s. So he's retired, Bruce Wayne has, from the mantle. And then, as the title might suggest, he comes back. He returns because, boy, has Gotham City gone to seed. I enjoy this alternate take because it just gets weird. Frankly, it's not just Batman, like what happened to Batman, but it turns into, okay, what about Superman? What about Wonder Woman? What about other members of the Justice League, like Plastic Man, like the Atom, and so on and so forth, the Flash? And it's strange. It's a bit loopy. Frank Miller's a weird dude. But I think it tells a story that's worth engaging with. I think my personal favorite might actually be Dark Knight: The Master Race, because Frank Miller, what he loves to do, he loves to write and draw his own stuff. Andy Kubert steps in, and Kubert is one of my favorite comics artists, and he does a terrific job with The Master Race. And so there you go. That's my number 5. Number 4, and I'm going to be honest, these are all going to be coming out of DC. All right. Therefore, my number 4 is
Bias.
Kingdom Come, 100%. Written by Mark Waid, illustrated by Alex Ross. Another kind of a glimpse into a DC future of what might be or what could be. Superman, Batman, and so on and so forth have all aged either out of or further into their respective personas. Part of what's kind of hilarious is that Superman failed to keep Metropolis as safe as he wanted to, but Batman has Gotham City like locked down. Like the whole world has gone to pot, and they mentioned kind of by the wayside that, oh, actually Gotham City's the safest place on Earth. It's really well taken care of. So that's kind of hilarious. But it's a classic DC story. Very good alternate take. The art of Alex Ross is always a treat. So Kingdom Come, my number 4.
My number 4 is Flashpoint. Now, I'm not talking about that dumb, stupid movie that we got, the Flash movie, the Flashpoint, whatever that movie is, the trash. No, I'm talking about what set up the New 52.
Yep.
Barry Allen going back in time. Thomas Wayne Batman, badass.
That was fun.
The Reverse Flash's presence throughout the entire book, fantastic. Watching Aquaman and Wonder Woman have a weird fling together and then war, crazy.
Didn't end well.
Right?
Didn't end well.
I remember when Thomas Wayne first comes in and he's like pretty much just threatens to murder somebody immediately, and Flash is like, oh, you're not Bruce. So, and then Wally, or not Wally, and then Barry having to pretty much give himself the Speed Force again for that. It's tough. It's sad. Martha Wayne being the Joker, tragic, but man, and it doesn't like overstay its welcome. Now, in today's world, Flashpoint is blown out of proportion, I think, personally.
Never should have been.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's like, now it's propped up a little too high.
Right. Yeah.
So that's where I'm at with it. But yeah, Flashpoint's my number 4.
I love that. Great number 4.
My number 3. Okay, so this isn't really an alternate, like, comic line.
Sure.
This is an alternate universe.
Yeah.
I have Earth 3 from DC. I love Owlman. I love the idea of it being not Bruce Wayne. It is it Thomas Wayne Jr.? Okay, so you have that going on. You have Ultraman, who instead of being scared of kryptonite and weak to kryptonite, he inhales it like a cocaine addict. Power Woman is weird and crazy, and then you literally all the bad guys in that universe are good guys. So you have Lex Luthor leading the charge.
It's a really fun concept.
Yeah, the Red Hood is the Joker, actually. and he's up there also leading the charge. So to watch that and then watch the actual, what I think is the coolest part is all those heroes as bad guys, but their power sets are like almost reverse, or they're like, oh, no wonder you're evil. Like Green Lantern in this is what, Power Ring or something.
Yep.
And that the ring,
complete coward.
Coward. But the ring drives him crazy, correct?
Yes.
And just like invades his thoughts to where he's just doing evil crap because he doesn't have a choice.
He's just scared to not do it.
And they end up all dying to the point that's when the new one comes in. It's not like there's 15 of them. It's like, oh, when Hal was shot and killed or whatever, or he killed himself because it's that bad, then the next one stepped in. That's crazy to me. So I have Earth 3 because it's not just an evil version. They gave it enough variety to where they feel like genuinely different characters.
Yeah, it's a great blend of just an inversion of what you would expect. Super fun. My number 3 is the Dark Knights of Steel storyline written by your guy, Tom Taylor.
Tom Taylor is my guy.
He should be. Like, the dude rushes the alternate universe takes. And this is imagining the Justice League essentially in medieval times. It retells the origins of a handful of those characters as well. So I don't want to spoil it altogether, but you have a lot of, I think, clever reimaginings of your classic DC characters. Characters do die and stay dead, which is, well, what a novel idea in comics. So the stakes are not low, but high. And seeing I think a fresh take on the relationship between Bruce and Kal-El was quite fun in this story as well. So Dark Knights of Steel, and the artwork is just freaking, it's so good. It's so good. Yasmin Putri was our artist for that run. She did the Lord's work. So well done, Yasmin. My number 2 is All-Star Superman by my guy, Grant Morrison, and his frequent collaborator, Frank Quietly. This is a bit unique because this is a standalone Superman story that's not canon. Okay. But Grant Morrison imagines, what if Superman knew he was going to die? So beginning of the story, Superman flies way too close to the sun and essentially gets radiation poisoning. Okay. So he gets really powered up, but he realizes that his cells have been so hyper exposed to sunlight that they're actually starting to break down, and he's just going to die within a relatively short period of time. And so he goes on a series of quests that he wants to accomplish before he passes away. And it's just kind of this beautiful examination of a character that is supposed to be invulnerable, right? And invincible, but is in this very vulnerable state, and how it is that he's trying to essentially finish his life well. So really thoughtful take on the Superman character. That's my number 2.
My number 2 is Age of Apocalypse. Should surprise nobody. This is a beautiful, beautiful take. This happens because Charles Xavier's son, Legion, goes back in time and is like, you know what would be really great for the world is if Magneto died. So he goes back and he tries to kill Magneto and instead kills his dad.
What?
And because he kills his dad, that sets off a whole chain of events where now the world is ruled by Apocalypse. Now, Magneto is the leader of the X-Men because of Charles' death. He takes it upon himself to carry on Charles' mission. So Magneto goes down a more heroic path compared to what he did in the past. You have the Summers brothers, Cyclops and Havoc. Their dad is essentially Mr. Sinister. So they are working for Apocalypse, not knowing that they have probably a rough idea of what they're doing is not probably for the good of the cause, but don't know any better. Logan gets his arm chopped off and is running around with a stub. Still has his claws, by the way, but just a stub. And it's hilarious. Him and Jean Grey are hopelessly in love. For some reason, Rogue and Magneto are a couple in this. You have comics. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, Colossus is dope in this. He can't. Colossus in this world can't get out of the metal skin, I believe, because if he does, he dies.
Sure.
Can't remember why that is. And so you have Apocalypse, who pretty much has taken some of your favorite heroes and villains, has propped them up, because the thing they have to keep in mind with Apocalypse is it's not just the mutants that he holds in high regard. It is the survival of the fittest. So you are seeing that in real time, because that's the world that he runs. Is the weak goodbye. And so to watch him have control, watch Mr. Sinister plant seeds to try to overtake Apocalypse at some point. It's fantastic. Apocalypse is a great villain. I'd love to see him done right and done well. So the Age of Apocalypse, definitely my number 2.
I love that. Your number 1, sir. Take us to the top.
My number 1, again, to the surprise of nobody, is Injustice. All right, look, it is so good. All right, the way that they just kill off people. Superman's turn from the Hope to Dictator is terrifying. It is horrifying. And watching his effect with the rest of the Justice League, because they're like, well, if Superman's doing it, it's got to be the right call. And then you're watching them go through this internal struggle. The Flash, for instance, is a prime example of, there's a couple times he thought he should get out and he didn't. Green Lantern turning into a Yellow Lantern and then being responsible for the death of Guy Gardner because he killed Guy himself. Martian Manhunter's off, like, in the first book. Stupid. Superman killing Shazam is probably the one of the worst deaths, in the sense of, oh, he just killed a kid. Like, he killed a kid and didn't feel too bad about it. Dick Grayson dies. I know these are all spoilers, but the deaths that happen in this are terrible. And it's also interesting to see, because
and they hold weight, because they're not coming back. They're not getting retconned back into existence.
And the great part is, and I think this is a really cool testament to both of these characters, Superman, yes, responsible for killing his wife and his kid. Batman, you are also watching go through, he's losing his kids too. Dick Grayson, dead. Okay, Jason Todd, as far as he knows at this point, dead. Tim Drake, he gets back in Injustice 2 for 30 seconds, and then Zod lasers him through the chest, kills him. So there's 3.
I'll do it.
And Damian hates him, and he also hates Damian because he believes Damian is responsible for the death of Dick Grayson, and also Damian goes kind of batshit crazy in this story too. So to see that all accumulate, and Batman still held to his moral code, and Superman didn't. And that's a fascinating parallel in that sense. So I love it so much. You get to see, man, it's awesome. So that's my number 1, Injustice.
I love that. My number 1 is Justice. So not Injustice, but just Justice. Alex Ross, again, illustrator extraordinaire, put this particular mini-series out, or limited series, I should say, back in, I think it was 2005. 2005 through 2007. Co-wrote with Jim Kruger. And it's essentially boils down to your classic Justice League against your classic poor Legion of Doom. And they're duking it out to the death. And the art throughout is extraordinary. The heroes get put through the absolute ringer in order to have a chance against the Legion of Doom, who, in a rare twist, actually collaborate well with each other and have a legit opportunity to win if they can just not botch it. And so the conflict, the stakes are high, the art is tremendous, the story is strong. It's one of my favorite stories just of all time. And again, it's not canon, but it's extremely, extremely accessible to just jump into at any point. It's one of the comics I've probably read and reread the most. So Justice is at the top, my number 1. Real quick, there's plenty of alternate storylines that I would like to read, especially on the Marvel side. So like 1872, which is a Secret Wars spinoff. Sounds like a blast. Marvel 1602, essentially the Avengers in Shakespearean times.
Old Man Logan.
Sounds
for
great.
me.
Yes, Old Man Logan.
Days of Future Past.
Yep. Yeah, there's even some like House of M, which
House
I've
of M
read.
would be really good.
But there's House of M like spin-offs that kind of flesh out that world that I think would be a real treat to get into as well. So a lot of great alternate takes out there. There's
True.
like the DC Comics did Earth One for a while. That was a take with different characters: Superman, Wonder Woman, Batman. The Superman Earth One run was really, really neat. The others, yeah, a little bit of a miss.
Probably the Dark Knights.
Yep. Yep.
And essentially just their one-off stories were really good.
Yep. Exactly.
For those alternate universe Bruce Waynes.
Yep. Yep.
So yeah, no, there's
a lot of fun takes.
Look, Ultimate Spider-Man.
Oh, geez.
The original Ultimate Spider-Man, not the new one. I've heard only good things.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, there's a lot of good stuff out there, man.
A lot of pretty sweet stuff. Well, Beans, anything else for the good people?
I think that is it.
I think it is, my friend.
Feel good?
Feels great.
101 in the books, baby.
Mm-hmm.
On that note,
Mm-hmm.
Godspeed.
Peace.